Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Too Old for Fairy Tales. Too Old for Fairy Tales is a Polish family film that tells the story of Waldek, a young boy who's talented at playing video games, but ends up falling short when it comes to winning at competitions. His mother ends up checking into a hospital to treat an illness she's hiding, leaving him in the supervision of his eccentric aunt. Waldek does not enjoy his aunt's presence at home, on account of him forcing him to do chores and uprooting him from his previously comfortable lifestyle, but it's through his interactions with his aunt that he ends up learning a valuable life lesson. I did find myself intrigued with this movie at first due to video games being one of the central concepts involved in it, but in the end it wasn't anything special. All of the acting performances and some of the messages behind it are presented well enough, but it suffers from pacing issues that make it hard to stay focused on it for extended periods of time. The main character, Waldek, is a sympathetic one, mostly with regards to his mother's illness. He lives life thinking that everything will be okay as long as he focuses on his passion, which his mother enables, so when the truth about her health is revealed, his world is turned upside down. He's forced to adapt to life without always being around her, which results in him having to grow up a lot faster than he might like. This does make him look spoiled to an extent, as he complains about having to eat healthy and do chores, but since his mother didn't want him to worry about her and basically pretend that things were normal, it does make sense why he has so much trouble adjusting. His crazy aunt, who is mostly referred to as Auntie in the movie, was definitely the biggest highlight of it. Her overbearing nature is evident immediately upon her first appearance, and the way she disrupts Waldek's established routines makes her the perfect storm to change Waldek as a character in a meaningful way. Her eccentricity is a bit generic, but it still makes for a lot of amusing scenarios, especially when she starts randomly suspending herself mid-air in Waldek's living room. The movie also allows some room to explore a more dramatic side to her character, which was interesting as well. If it hadn't been for Auntie, this movie would have been a complete snooze fest. And what makes Auntie such a huge part about this movie is the relationship she has with Waldek. The banter and petty conflict that happens between the two is hilarious. The little things they did to aggravate each other relating to their opposing lifestyles is what helped keep this movie afloat. One moment, Waldek will dump a bunch of sugar in his tea and Auntie will make him eat something gross. Another time, Auntie will force him to stop playing video games for a while, to which Waldek responds by poking her air mattress to make it flat. There were a bunch of little trivial things they did that weren't funny by themselves, but when added up, the movie became increasingly more humorous. The two ultimately come to have a positive impact on each other though. She realizes how important video games are to him as someone with an esports background, and Waldek realizes how much he needed Auntie when his mother was away. They both transform simply by being around each other, and it's heartwarming to see play out on camera. However, this transformation, as good as it ended up being, was also part of this movie's biggest problem. For a movie that's supposed to be oriented toward kids, it is unusually slow paced with its story and takes a long time for anything interesting to happen during it. Much of this is because of the amount of exercises Waldek is forced to do by Auntie in order to lose weight. I understand the narrative purpose behind them, and they do have some amusing moments, but most of the time they slowed the movie to a crawl with how many of these scenes there were. There's also a missed opportunity behind them that could have been used to address his status as an esports athlete. Now, I actually think that the way esports is depicted in this movie is well done. There's no stereotypes or patronizing made about gamers, it's made out to be just another hobby like any other. But even knowing about how Auntie is as a character, I was still disappointed with the lack of gaming content in it. Not only does the movie stigmatize Waldek's weight to an annoying degree instead of just accepting who he is as an overweight gamer, but the competition Waldek signs up for has little payoff behind it. I kept waiting for the gaming stuff to come up, and when it did, it fell flat. Waldek's gaming persona falls by the wayside in favor of the family drama that crops up as a result of his mother's ill health. The dramatic aspect between him and his mother is okay for the most part, especially once Waldek becomes more independent later on, but it still feels typical in its approach. His mother is a worrywart who's afraid of every little decision Waldek has to do, which I understand to a point, since she is anxious about how her son will end up if she dies from her illness. But it gets a bit ridiculous when he can't do something as simple as cross an empty street. I just felt like the movie went a little overboard with how much he dotes over him. As excessive as his aunt and mother can be, it is interesting to see how Waldek comes into his own over the course of the story. He finds himself becoming increasingly pulled out of his gamer world where he can live in his imagination, and has to adapt to life in the real world and the hardships he encounters in it. It's great to see him experience things like building a work ethic through chores, becoming attracted to girls, and figuring out how to cope with his mother's illness, but eventually this is pretty much all that happens in the movie, particularly in the final act where almost nothing exciting happens. The movie lacks balance, which results in a story that becomes really boring. The other supporting characters don't help much with matters either. Stashak doesn't serve much purpose beyond him randomly antagonizing Waldek when the plot calls for conflict, while Delphina's romantic arc with Waldek never really made that much sense to me. Like I said earlier, Auntie is really what helps make this movie as opposed to breaking it, and it's through her that an important message is taught about growing up and gaining independence, which is something that every child has to do. Although the movie could stand to be a lot more engaging, the message remains significant. Overall, Too Old for Fairy Tales is an average family flick that is appealing in some parts, but disappointing in others. If you're looking for a film to watch that can be enjoyed by the whole family and every family member has high attention spans, you might enjoy checking it out. If it hadn't been for Auntie and the energy she injects into the story, I probably would have fallen asleep when watching this movie. But even though it does have stretches of boring tedium, it has enough thematic coming-of-age content behind it that I was able to appreciate it to some degree. What did you think about this movie? Did you enjoy the relationship dynamic between Valdek and Auntie, or did you think the movie could have been more exciting? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Too Old for Fairy Tales. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the American action movie, The Gray Man. Bye bye!